Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2022-23 season. My name is Dan and we are going to do our final Game Week 25 video where we're going to have a look at all of the double Game Week teams, which players to go for, which players to avoid, and finally we're going to rank your top double Game Week targets for the game week at the end of the video, showing you which players are absolute must-haves and which ones you can maybe afford to go without. So guys, if you do enjoy this one, please do leave a like, please do subscribe if you're new around here, but let's get on with the video. So let's throw up these fixtures on screen first of all for you guys. We've got Arsenal, Everton, Liverpool and Wolves all with double game weeks. I am going to jumble them up just a little bit because I want to put them in order of difficulty. And I do feel like Liverpool do have the best fixtures of these four teams, Crystal Palace and Wolves. That's a decent pair of fixtures. Crystal Palace and Wolves have been some of the weaker teams in the league so far this season. Arsenal against Leicester and Everton. It's not the best fixtures in the world, but it certainly is very good fixtures as well. Wolves, I think, is actually a little bit tougher than people are making it out. Obviously, we know Liverpool is not the greatest fixture in the world, but that Fulham game in particular, I think that is noteworthy because Fulham have actually been doing quite well this season, quite well in general, difficult to score against and actually beating quite a lot of teams they come up against. Certainly you would expect them to beat a team like Wolves given the fact that they've only really lost to Newcastle and Spurs in recent game weeks and had some decent results against some other decent teams. So you would expect Fulham to do some good in that game even if they are lacking Mitrovic. So not an amazing pair of fixtures for Wolves, but it's certainly okay. And Everton have got Aston Villa and Arsenal, and given the fact that they've got Arsenal away, it does feel like one of those 1.5 game weeks rather than one of those full-blown double game weeks really. Aston Villa's a decent fixture if you're looking for goals, but yeah, Arsenal, difficult fixture. Even if Everton did beat them, I think Arsenal are going to be out for revenge here, so it could be a tricky double for them. So we're going to go through all four teams and categorise their players into three categories. Essential players, optional players and punt players. So we want to be going for those essential players. Those optional players are definitely players you could consider going for as well if you've got some transfers to use or you want to get rid of some blanking players, maybe go for some of the optional guys. And we have got some punts in today's video as well that I think are maybe worth talking about, but not necessarily players that we absolutely must go for by any stretch. So let's start off with Everton. We'll work our way to the best double game week team, which is probably going to be Liverpool, judging by their fixtures. So let's have a look first at Everton. All right, so Everton, Aston Villa and Arsenal, a difficult fixture against Arsenal. Even that Aston Villa fixture, you know that Aston Villa can score goals at the moment, but the fact that it's home is going to help. And we know Sean Dyche is going to be looking to set up and get a clean sheet here. So I've got three players who I would be considering from Everton. There is no one else who I'd even be remotely considering. First of all, Tarkowski. I feel like he is almost an essential player. I know that's going to sound a little bit controversial to call a player like Tarkowski essential, but in FPL, we do have to take these prices into consideration, and Tarkowski is definitely a player who we should be taking his price into consideration because he's only 4.3 million at time of recording. I don't know if he's boosted up in price before this video comes out. I don't think he will, but still, I feel like that's a really, really good price. And even if you're only playing him for this game week, you can afford to bench him in future game weeks just because he is that such cheap price. He will be typically your bench player, and I do think there are some other options to play him. I think over the next couple of game weeks there is opportunity for more clean sheets from Everton, and also the fact that Tarkowski is going to get a fixture in game week 28 when so many other teams blank. One final note on Tarkowski, and you may have heard me speak about this already, but he is providing the best attacking threat of any Everton player right now, which sounds absolutely mad considering he's a centre-back. So he is the target from all set pieces. They are being whipped in to James Tarkowski's head, and he is getting chances to score as well. And for a player this cheap, who is so benchable and gives you an option in future game weeks to also have that attacking threat, and it's a serious attacking threat. For a centre-back, for a defender, this is a genuine serious goal threat here. If this comes off, it's going to be huge. A lot of people are going to be going for Tarkowski, and if you don't get him, I feel like you may be missing out a little bit. Also got Pickford on here. I feel like if you're going to go for a goalkeeper right now, maybe he's the one to go for, just because he can cover you for future game weeks as well. And I've got a Iwobi here as well as a punt. I have to admit, I am putting him on this video, kind of regrettably, I guess. I'm really not keen on a move like this, but I feel like someone like Iwobi, he is a player you could potentially go for, kind of in a worst case scenario. If you really needed to downgrade one of your midfielders to free up some cash, then maybe I would downgrade that player to Iwobi. Would I be selling the likes of Rashford or Mahrez for Iwobi? Absolutely not. I would rather keep players like that, even if they blank this week, because I don't think Iwobi is going to be worth taking hits to bring him in, take him out again. doesn't seem worth it to me. But certainly if he's part of a double transfer and you have to find the midfielder who is super cheap, like Iwobi, for Game Week 25, then in that case, I can kind of understand why you would go for him. He does have a little bit of creativity in him. He does score the very occasional wonder goal, and he is on some set pieces as well. But we know Everton, and we know Everton don't score many goals. We're not expecting them to score any goals, really, against Arsenal, even if they do. And, you know, maybe they can get something against Aston Villa, but look, I wouldn't really overhype Iwobi too much. He's okay if you desperately need someone at that price point, but that's just about it. A last resort kind of player to bring in. All right, Wolves, Fulham away, Liverpool away. 2 away fixtures, which is never ideal, but you never know. They could get something out of this. And they do have a lot of cheap options here as well. So first of all, we are going to have Kilman. Now, I think Kilman is, I guess, optional, just because he is at that right price point where he is really cheap. He is also nailed on for you as well. If you are looking for a defender from Wolves and you kind of have got a little bit of budget restriction there, and this is a player you would be looking to bench in future game weeks, then Kilman is probably your guy. So you could go for him. I don't think he's essential. I think Fulham away is a decent chance of a clean sheet there, potentially, just because Fulham are not scoring a lot of goals at the moment, and they are going to be lacking Mitrovic. So maybe that's going to play into Wolves' favour. But like I said earlier, I do think Fulham will still beat Wolves, but you know, you never know. You could get a clean sheet out of that, and you've got to be in it to win it. So that's why not really any Wolves players I don't think are essential for this game week, because I'm not actually that convinced that they're going to do super well. However, there is a couple of other options. So Dawson, I feel like if money is no issue, then Dawson is your best option at Wolves, just because he has got that aerial ability to score you know, a random goal, perhaps in one of those games from a set piece or something like that, which could be pretty nice, but he is a little bit more expensive. So unless you're on a free hit, probably would not be going on for Dawson, to be honest. And Bueno, another player who really is a kind of a last resort player. If you desperately need to get the cheapest possible defender in your team right now, I guess in that case you could go for Bueno. If you've already got Bueno, I would be keeping him, certainly. And to be fair, if there are other players, you know, from Everton, from Wolves that you already have, I would be keeping them. I certainly wouldn't be selling them necessarily. But yeah, Bueno, you could bring him in if you desperately needed that 3.9 million defender, because he is not nailed on. He's certainly not nailed on, but he's cheap enough that this is not going to damage your team in the long term. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. He could just stay on your bench going forward. You don't need to worry about him. And finally, I've got, again, another player who I'm regrettably putting in this video because I do not feel confident about this at all. But I know people want me to talk about him, but Neves, real punt here. Neves, to me, especially in this pair of fixtures, is the kind of player that you will only get anything out of in terms of any attacking returns whatsoever if you get super lucky. You are going to have to be very lucky to get anything from Neves, and that's not really the kind of FPL pick. I want an FPL pick, personally, who I can predict are going to score points, and I can't predict Neves is going to score points, because pretty much the only way he's going to get anything in this game is if he gets a penalty, or in this game week, sorry. So that's the only way that's going to happen. He is the penalty taker for Wolves. That's pretty much the only way he's going to get attacking returns for Wolves. And at the same time, do Wolves even find themselves in the box enough of the time to get those penalty decisions given to them? Not really. So yeah, don't really like this move. Again, another player who is an absolute last resort player, but I put him even below Iwobi in this situation, because at least Iwobi has a little bit of, you know, attacking threat from open play there. But yeah, Neves, really don't like this pick. Don't think you should be going for him. But if you desperately need to downgrade one of your midfielders to a 5.4 midfielder in order to facilitate another move, then fair enough. Again, wouldn't be selling Rashford for him. Wouldn't be selling Fernandes for him. You know, it's going to cost you -4 to get Neves into your team. Probably take you another -4 to take him out for whoever, and you know, by that point, has he really made it up to you? He's gonna have to score 8 points to make it up to you, depending on what kind of transfer moves you are planning. But in general, he's definitely not a player you want to own long term, definitely not. And I can't see him scoring more than 4 or 5 points in this double game week. So is he going to be more worth the -4? Probably not, to be honest. So yeah, not feeling that one. Not really feeling that one. But Kilman, an option. For Arsenal, it's definitely Saka who is essential up against Leicester and Everton at home. Saka on penalties, playing very well, playing with confidence, and just looks like an absolute genius at the moment, doesn't he? Potential captain option as well. I know a lot of people will be captaining Saka in this double game week, so I feel like you've got to have him in your team. I would be taking hits to get Saka. I'd be taking hits to pretty much get any player who is essential in this video. So yeah, Saka, make sure you've got him. You know, we've spoken a lot about him already, but yeah, he's just a player to get if you haven't already. Odegaard, same kind of situation. Another player who I think is super essential for this double game week. So, yeah, make sure you've got Saka, make sure you've got Odegaard. I've put Nketiah here as optional. Don't think he's essential, but he's certainly an optional player, and you should be looking to triple up on Arsenal in some capacity. And Nketiah would be my third favourite option, I suppose, from Arsenal. The one concern about him is that he's not really a long-term player. So if you don't have Nketiah already, then maybe there's argument for you to not get him in now. But look, he is an option still. He's still got amazing underlying numbers. He just needs to start finishing off some of these chances that he's getting, and he's going to absolutely go up. He's going to go crazy and score loads and loads of goals because it's been looking really likely. So I don't think you have to get him if you don't have him already, but I would definitely consider it and have a look at how you can do that. And finally, I've got Zinchenko here as well as a bit of a punt. If you've got Zinchenko already, I would definitely be keeping him. I think he could be a decent punt. But, you know, if you've got like Ben White, maybe you keep him. Maybe Gabriel I would keep. Saliba I would keep. If you have a Trossard or Martinelli, those are the kind of players, because they're kind of minutes risk, serious minutes risk. Maybe you could include Ben White in that criteria as well. Those are the kind of players who I would be selling to make sure I had Saka and Odegaard, but not necessarily Nketiah. But yeah, there you go. Basically, just make sure you've got Saka and Odegaard. Once you've got those two, make sure you've got that third Arsenal player. It doesn't matter as much who your third guy is, but I would prefer Nketiah or Zinchenko given the option. And finally, Liverpool against Crystal Palace and Wolves. So this is going to be an interesting one. We don't really know what to think about Liverpool at the moment. They have got a couple of good results in the Premier League, but they have been under very specific circumstances. For example, that Newcastle game playing against 10 men without Nick Pope and still didn't look amazing in that game, if I'm totally honest. And then we had the Real Madrid result as well. So look, it's difficult to judge exactly where Liverpool are right now. It does seem like they are scoring a little bit more. Some of their players like Salah and Darwin are getting involved a little bit more than they were before. Are they worth their value for money? In general, no, but we have got a double game week. So this is going to be an opportunity here where we're going to start revisiting some players that we wouldn't ordinarily guaranteed, you know, they wouldn't be ordinarily guaranteed players in your team, but because we've got a double gaming, they come into the fray, right? So Salah, first of all, I think he is essential. I think he's probably going to be, if you have already got Saka, he's going to be your #1 transfer target, and I would be making every effort to get Salah into your team. Even if it takes a -4 to do that, I would still be trying to look at ways of how you can do that. So yeah, he's going to be the essential man, coming into a little bit more form than he was before on penalties. Reasonably decent stats as well there, so I think he could do pretty well in this double game week in two pretty favourable fixtures, to be fair. Darwin Nunez, I think, is definitely an option as well. Would not be automatically going for Darwin, but I think there are circumstances where you should go for him. So, for example, if you need to free up money to get to Salah, for example, and you need to downgrade Kane in order to free up some cash to get Salah into your team, then that's fair enough. Maybe you could downgrade Kane to Darwin. If you don't need to free up the cash, then I don't think I'd make the move. I think I'd rather keep Kane for the next few game weeks than have Darwin, because remember, unless you're wildcarding very soon, you are actually going to have to keep these players, and a lot of these players are really not guys you want to keep long term. But Darwin, I think he will do well in game week 25. There is a small minutes risk, you know, over the double game week with all of Liverpool's other attackers coming back into the team. But other than that, I think he's a pretty decent pick for the double game week. It's just I'm a little bit worried about him after that. So that's the only concern with Darwin. But if you're looking for that short-term big hitter and the move makes sense, so for example, you need to sell Kane, you need to downgrade Kane and get Darwin in to upgrade somewhere else, or you know you've got a Mitrovic in your team who you need to get rid of and you can afford to upgrade him to Darwin. Again, another good scenario where you might go for him, but only get Darwin, I guess, if it makes sense to you. Could say similar thing about Trent Alexander-Arnold. I think he looks good for the double game week. I think he looks bad thereafter. So yeah, it's a decent couple of fixtures if you're looking for clean sheets. The difficulty is with Liverpool is that they don't really get clean sheets. In fact, they've been one of the worst defences in the Premier League, and we're kind of seeing that repeated over and over again, how many chances they concede. They're just not looking good defensively. So to go for a defender that's this expensive doesn't really make too much sense for the long term, especially when Trent is just not putting up the same attacking numbers as he has been previously. However, Trent does have a very high ceiling, so this is a high risk, high reward kind of player. We know that if Trent does get a clean sheet, he does get an assist in there as well, then we're suddenly looking at a really, really big score, which is exactly what we want in FPL, right? So not a great long-term option, high risk, high reward kind of player, but definitely an option for you. If you are cheaping out a little bit, maybe you could go for Robertson as well as a punt. He's just like a slightly worse Trent, I guess, but cheaper as such. And finally, Cody Gakpo there, put him at the bottom as a punt. Again, another player I'm not too keen on. I'm getting asked a lot, should I sell Mahrez for Gakpo? For me, no, I would not do that. I'd rather play Mahrez. A lot of other players I'd probably rather keep. I'm worried about Gakpo a lot. I feel like he's going to get a 3-pointer this week. 2 points for playing in the first game. 1 point for, you know, a sub appearance in the second game. I do think he's going to be rotated a little bit. So not super confident about him at all. Considering how popular he is as a player, I'm just not too keen on this one. So yeah, even like if you feel like, I really don't know which midfielder to buy. Oh, I guess this is my only option. Gakpo is my only option. I guess I'll go for him. I would not even go there in that situation. I think I would rather play with 10 men than go for him, to be honest. Like, in many ways, he could get a lower score than the likes of Iwobi and Neves, because at least Iwobi and Neves are nailed on, and if everything goes wrong, you still get a base of 4 points, and you don't even get that with Cody Gakpo. So for that reason, he is a serious punt. Could he get something out of this? Yes. Is his ceiling super high? I don't think his ceiling is as high as the likes of Salah Darwin or Trent Alexander-Arnold, but look, again, as an absolute worst case scenario kind of punt, I guess you could go for him, but look, another one I'm really not so keen on, so goes right at the bottom of the list for me. So with Liverpool done, let's now go through all of these players and put them in a top 10 ranking of who I think should be your top transfer targets. All right, so here we go, guys. These are the top 10 in my opinion. So Salah is going to be your number 1, then Saka, then Odegaard, then Tarkowski, then Darwin Nunez, Nketiah, Alexander-Arnold, Kilman, Zinchenko, and finally Robertson. Do not expect you to get all of these players. I think if you've got 5 of the players on screen right now, I think that's good enough, to be honest. I think that's pretty decent. If you can get 6 double game week total, I think that's pretty decent as well. So yeah, look, I don't think any of these players are essential other than Salah, Saka, Odegaard, and maybe Tarkowski. Below that, kind of have some. If you can get one player who is between 5 and 10 on this list, in addition to the top 4, I think you're going to be in a really, really strong position for Game Week 25. And I think you're ready. You're going to absolutely smash it. So I think you can have a little bit of confidence in yourself, particularly if you don't need to take too many hits, because I can see from looking through the comments, looking through Twitter, people are taking a lot of hits this week. We're talking a lot of -8s, a lot of -12s as well. I have even seen a -16, which just blows my mind. But hey, have some fun with it. FPL is meant to be fun at the end of the day. But yeah, certainly top 4 players on this list. Make sure you have them and try and get one more in addition to the big 4 that you see on screen right there. And there we have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this one, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe if you're new around here. And make sure you tune into our deadline stream that we will be doing later on, 1 hour before deadline. Might even go slightly earlier if I'm a little bit bored. But yeah, loads of other content on the channel. We did my team selection last night. Also got Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, the 100 Experts video, which is amazing this game week, by the way. I did a full strategy stream as well, speaking a little bit about different chip strategies that you can use. And of course, we have our free hit template as well, if you are one of those guys on free hits. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you later on the deadline stream, and for now I will see you later, mates. Bye bye.